everyone. Been a while, I know. I'm sorry. I was out. I was sick. I had real life shit go on. Computers decide that they go down whenever the fuck they feel like it. And I have to deal with the shit. And just because I have an offshore group that is supposed to take care of all our business and make sure that everything works correctly, because this is Trump's America, that shit just doesn't work. I think they heard about the whole immigration thing and they're a little pissed. So they're just not fixing my computers anymore. I'm a little pissed about it. But anyway, I want to talk to you about a couple of things I've noticed. I've been sitting back, just kind of watching the drama, just kind of enjoying it all. And we saw a guy get punched. We've seen the riots and the craziness. And I've been doing a little thinking, kind of sitting back, kind of just taking all this shit in. And one of the things that I've become aware of recently is that nature abhors a vacuum. And I believe that vacuum right now is religion. And as much as it pains me to say it, I don't think that a religion is a good thing in general. And I think this is proving it. It appears that humans just need it for some fucking reason. Now, Christianity is not eradicated. Don't get me wrong. It's been rendered pretty impotent. Yeah, a lot of people believe, but they kind of do it in quiet. You know, they're kind of going on the weekends, not really telling anybody about it. Even the churches themselves seem to be afraid to be Christian. They're getting on the bandwagon. The Pope is going on about climate change and all this other shit. And I'm becoming increasingly skeptical that this has been a good thing. You know, watching the left, I become more and more convinced that if you take away people's religion, well, they'll believe in any fucking thing. And what I'm not clear on is whether or not what's replacing Christianity is really any better. What I'm talking about is progressivism. When we have leftists chanting Islamic prayers, clearly a much worse religion than the rest of the entire group of them put together, well, if they aren't believing in the supernatural, they got to believe in something. And leftists in power have done a great job of creating their new religion, progressivism. As much as the progressives drive us up a wall with their nuttiness, there may be an altruistic motive to all their craziness, but it's been exploited. And I think the outrage that we have seen is really on a par of watching Christians get all bent out of shape when anybody, goes after their God or their Jesus or says bad things. So I've found this one, and one of the reasons they're so angry is Trump defeated their Messiah. This is by John Daniel Davidson over at The Federalist. The consternation and outrage we've seen in response to President Trump's executive order on immigration has little to do with the policy as such. Restricting immigration from certain countries is nothing new. Obama did it, Bush did it, H.W. did it, Clinton did it, and Reagan did it. So if it's been done so many times, why is this such a problem when Trump does it? Because it has everything to do with the elevation of progressive politics to the status of a religion, a dogmatic and intolerant religion whose practitioners are now experiencing a big old crisis of faith. Progressives have reacted with moral indignation and hysteria to everything Trump has done since the election. In the past 12 days since the election, and it's been longer than that now, we witnessed demonstrations, boycotts, calls for resistance, comparisons to the Holocaust, media witch hunts, the politicization of everything from Hollywood award shows to professional sports, and real tears coming from New York Senator Chuck Schumer, not to mention the riots over at Berkeley. One is hard-pressed to think of something Trump could do that would not elicit howls of outrage from the left. On Tuesday, Senate Democrats boycotted confirmation hearings for Stephen Munchin's nomination for Treasury Secretary and Representative Tom Price's nomination to be Secretary of Health and Human Services, while trying to block the confirmation of Betsy DeVos for Education Secretary and Jeff Sessions. Anything he does, they're going to block. Even before he announced his Supreme Court pick, Democrats announced they would filibuster the nomination. It didn't matter who he picked. He is one of the unclean, one of the heathens, one of the non-believers. And so anything he says is not useful or real. Everything he does is evil. He is the great Satan. And everybody and all of his followers are also the unclean Satans who must be eradicated from the face of the earth. That's why it's Steve Shives and Kevin Logan and everybody else is saying, it's okay to punch Nazis. And they just, who's a Nazi? Well, anyone we deem we dislike. This is no different than the Salem witch trials or the Spanish Inquisition or any of that bullshit that just keeps coming our way. The Christians were doing this for years and years and years. And people who believed in this because they thought their souls were going to go to hell or something like that were happy to do horrible things to their fellow man. This is no different. They're just worshiping a different God now. Trump shook the faith. His election unmasked the degree to which progressivism as a political project is not based on science or rationality or even sound policy, but on faith in the power of government to ameliorate or eventually perfect society. We're going to make it in our image, in God's image. All the protests and denunciations of Trump serve as not just as an outlet for progressive despair, but a chance to signal their moral virtue through collective outrage and moral preening, something that wasn't really possible under Obama, at least not to this degree. Well, sure it was. But by then the church was actually in power, the church of progressivism. We all talk about the hypocrisy, how, let's just take, for example, the global warming crisis. This is a huge crisis that many, many rich millionaires get on their gas-guzzling private jets to go to irrelevant do-nothing conferences to discuss how bad it is. But it's okay, they get a pass for wasting all that because they're on the right side. They're part of the faith. Back in the day, the Christians used to call that special dispensation from the Pope. As long as you tithed enough, you kind of got overlooked a lot of your sins. Because you're part of the faith, you're supporting the orthodoxy. It's no different, guys. Religious fundamentalism rests on immutable truths that cannot be negotiated. This is why everything they do is right and everything you do is wrong. And believe me, everything you do is wrong. And they don't have any room in their heart for forgiveness or science or rationality or any of that. The left believes that through the instrument of government, they can right the world's wrongs, punish the wicked, feed the hungry, outlaw bigotry, and perhaps even save the earth from climate change. All they need is control the government and over your life and sound policies. If everything that matters is at stake, then everything is justified in pursuit of political power, including punching people they disagree with on the streets. And that's why all these people are talking like this. That's why all these YouTubers out there talking like this. They are part of their faith. This is no longer about a different set of ideas. You are fighting a religion now. Feminism, progressivism, regressivism, whatever you want to call it, Black Lives Matter, all of these are facets. All of these are just different denominations of the same progressive religion. You're not fighting against people who make sense anymore. They've got their scriptures, they've got their arms, and they will use their weapons against you. Progressives have made politics into a god, and their god is failing them. And they are lashing out and freaking out. Do you want to know what their main weapon is? It's called empathy. I've found this story called How to Defeat Weaponized Empathy. It's the primary weapon of the modern left. It so completely dominates their tactical thinking that everything else in their arsenal pales in comparison. Defeating this weapon ought to be foremost on the mind of any opponent of the progressive left. So let's take a look at that 54 Lumber ad, where they show the woman and the kid trying to get to the United States, and they come up against the wall, so they can't get in, which apparently means walls do work. But be that as it may, That was a piece of propaganda designed to tug at your heartstrings, to make you feel for this woman and this kid who just want a better life and can't get into America. And aren't you an awful person for not understanding that immigration is such a great thing? They don't show you the coyotes that are bringing these women and these children across and leaving their underwear up in rape trees. Or leaving a ton of immigrants who just want a better life in a back of a semi-truck and just abandoning them to cook and be found dead in the desert. They don't tell you how much they take from these people and may or may not get them there. They don't tell you how they make them smuggle heroin in while they're coming in. They don't tell you how they use and abuse these people to get them in. And by us not putting a stop to it, we are allowing this to happen. No, it's just a woman and her kid having a nice little camping trip across the desert, only to be stopped by evil Trump's wall. A fucking lumber company did this, for God's sakes. You don't think they are exploiting the Mexicans? With the left is now praising a fucking lumber company because they got you at your empathy. They got you in your heart. And it was an effective commercial, and this is how they work. Any victory achieved without defeating weaponized empathy will be hollow and pyrrhic. You may succeed in lowering taxes for a time or passing some military budget item you want, but the progressive steamroller will go on, slowly and inexorably, swallowing entire civilizations in the old Fabian manner. The war will be lost until the weapon is destroyed. And believe me, this is a war, guys. They do want to defeat us. They hate us, and I will get to that in a minute. Weaponized empathy is the deliberate hijacking of your own moral standards, your ability to empathize with your fellow man in order to force you to serve someone else's narrative. It is, in essence, a highly sophisticated form of guilt tripping designed to turn you into a slave. This is what churches used to do. This is what churches still do. The Islamic religion is really good at it. For God's sakes, they get you to want the afterlife so bad that your soul is at risk from being burned or whatever, that you won't get your 72 virgins, that they get you to go out there and blow yourself up and kill people along with them. That's how much power religions have over people. And this religion, progressivism, is the dominant religion in America right now. And their main weapon is this weaponized empathy. You might consider it an Alinsky tactic of forcing the enemy to live up to their own moral standards, but it goes beyond that. It forces an enemy to embrace your moral standards, to suffer tremendous peer pressure and social engineered justice at the whims of the mob. So let's take a practical example. Those of you remember the child's body that was washed up on the Syrian shore, showing how refugees were so bad, except that it wasn't in maximum photographic distance when they found it. And so they actually moved it and put it where you could get maximum propaganda out of it, maximum empathy out of it. They wanted to get you to feel. This is what they do so well. This is what Christians used to do so well. And whether or not you liked them or not, there was some sort of self-improvement to the Christian religion. They twisted it, they screwed it up, and I'm not saying I want to go back to that, but at least at its depth, it was about you being a better person, not you forcing other people to be a better person. People twisted it, but that's at its core what it was. And the competition of religions we had gave us a country that was one of the most enlightened and free thinking the world has ever seen. Western civilization and liberal ideas came from a lot of that. It would be silly to say that it hasn't. Now, I would love us to get past that. I would love us to get past the idea of some, crazy guy in the sky. But unfortunately, we're not all that far from hunting and killing our own food. 100 years ago, we started in World War I when we were just starting to get cities and cars and that sort of thing. Before that, it was an agricultural society living in villages and huts and witch doctors and all kinds of shit. Yes, we were getting better and better through the 1800s, but really we weren't. We've only had about 100 years of real technology, and our brains are just not that far past it. And we are susceptible to all kinds of nitwit religious ideas. And right now, the worst of them is progressivism. So what do? They manipulate you into supporting certain progressive policies by showing you the picture of this dead child, carefully positioned to elicit maximum sympathy. It's like the TV commercial showing starving African children covered in maggots and flies. I've no doubt the cameraman deliberately engineers the scene for maximum effect. Donate, or else you're a bad person who hates starving Africans. Support Syrian refugee resettlement in your country, or you support dead children. Never mind all the Syrian refugees that are coming in that are destroying Europe. Take a look at this set of pictures. Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. What did we get to be shown? We got to be shown this cute little kid and this scowling, scary, mostly white man. You show the same two guys in two different pictures. What kind of a reaction would you have had? Now, I'm not saying that maybe they should have shown one or the other. But certainly, they are using your emotions to maximize your empathy to support their narrative. And that's all that matters to them. And they don't give a flying fuck whether it's true or correct, whether they're being good or whether they're following their same rules. It doesn't matter. Only the religion matters. Only the dogma matters. And if you don't follow the dogma, we hate you. Weaponized empathy isn't just employed to win easy converts. It's also used to mobilize the converted against the unconverted. To use the threat of force, of financial ruin, and peer pressure, even with families, to silence the unconverted, to make them afraid to speak. It's even make it permissible to commit violent acts against you. Sure, it's okay to punch Richard Spencer in the face. He's a Nazi. We've already deemed it so. He is one of the unconverted. He's one of the unclean. We'll just use the buzzword Nazi because everybody hates that, because we got to use it for maximum effect to get the maximum amount of feeling out of you so we can commit our atrocities across the land, whether that's burning down Berkley, throwing riots in Ferguson, shooting cops in Dallas. Doesn't fucking matter. The orthodoxy is the only thing that matters. Believe or be smited. And trust me, if you're not on the right side, they hate you. Don't you think that they're misguided, that they're good people who just have some weird ideas? They don't. They fucking hate you. Leftists don't merely disagree with you. They don't merely feel you are misguided. They don't think you are merely wrong. They hate you. They want you enslaved and obedient, if not dead. Once you get that, everything that is happening now will make sense, and you will understand what you need to be ready to do. You're a normal, and therefore a heretic. You refuse to bow to their idols, to subscribe to their twisted catechisms, to praise their false gods. This is unforgivable. You must burn. You don't go to the church of protests and chant along with the rest of them, just like that's their sacred church, you know. Protest is their sacred church. Don't think it is anything else. You go there and you chant to the high priest with the bullhorn, and you don't want to be a part of that? You must burn. You think that's crazy talk? Just ask them. Go ahead. Go on social media. Find a leftist. It's easy. Just say something positive about America or Jesus, and they'll come swarming like locusts. Engage them, and very quickly they will drop their masks and tell you what they really think. I know. I keep a rapidly expanding file of Twitter leftist death wish screenshots. They will tell you Christians are idiots and vets are scum. That normals are subhumans whose role it is to labor as serfs to subsidize the progressive elite and its clients. Tax the fuck out of you so we can enact our holy sacraments. You should die to make way for the new progressive man, woman, or other, one of the 57 genders, I'm assuming. Understand, when they call Donald Trump illegitimate, what they're really saying is our desire to govern ourselves is illegitimate. You fucking idiots don't know what you're doing. Their beef isn't with him, it's with us. Normal people who dared rise up and demand their right to participate in the rule of this country and this culture. They hate you because by defying them, you have prevented them from living up to the dictates of their false religion. Our rebelliousness has denied them the state of grace they seek, exercising their divine right to dictate every aspect of our puny lives. Their sick faith gives meaning to these secular weirdos, giving them something that fills their empty lives with a messianic fervor to go out and conquer and convert the heathens. Oh, and we're the heathens, guys. You and I. There are different leftist sects. There's the social justice warriors who have manufactured a bizarre mythology and scripture of oppression, privilege, and intersectionality. Instead of robes, they dress up as genitals and kill babies as a blasphemous sacrament. Then there are the pagan weather religion oddballs convinced that the end is near and we must repent by turning in our SUVs. Of course, the we is really us. High priests of the global warming cult like Leonardo DiCaprio will still jet around the world with supermodels while we do our ritual sacrificing of our modern comforts. Then there are the ones who simply worship themselves, the elitists who believe that all wisdom and morality has been invested in them merely because they went to the right college, Christy Winters, they think the right thoughts, Kevin Logan, and sneer at anyone living between I-5 and I-95, Steve Shives. All leftist sects agree they have found and revealed the truth, and imposing it on benighted normals like us is so transcendently important that they are relieved of any moral limitations. They are ISIS, except with hashtags instead of AKs, committed to the establishment of a leftist caliphate. You wonder why the left is now justifying violence? Because they think that helps them right now. It's suddenly okay to punch a Nazi. The punchline is anyone who opposes them is a Nazi. You wonder why they ignore the rule of law, why they could switch on a dime from screaming at Trump for refusing to preemptively legitimize a Hillary win, and then scream that he is legitimate the moment she lost. Because their only principle is what helps the left win today. That's why the media gleefully, happily lies every single day about every single thing it reports. They're fanatics. And because you have defied the left, you must be broken. They will take your job, slander your name, even beat or kill you, whatever it takes to break you and terrify others by making you an example. Your defiance can't stand. They cannot allow this whole Trump GOP majority thing to get out of control. They must crush this rebellion of the normal. Absolutely nothing is off the table. See, they say we need to resist the oppression, but what they're really saying is
we will then crush the rebellion with one swift stroke.
We've seen them burn UC Berkeley, and how the police, controlled by the leftist state government of California, stood by and watched as Americans were beaten by a mob. Why? Because the government of the state of California approves this violence. Do you think it's a coincidence that California is doing everything it can to disarm people? Oh, I'm sorry, the normals. The left won't say it out loud. Actually, they will. If violence is what it takes for the left to prevail, then violence is what we will have. And actually, they have been saying that. We've seen these YouTubers come out and say, I think it's permissible to punch a Nazi. You know, I mean, if you have nothing else left, there's no way to deal with this, then you're going to have to, get violent and start punching these guys or getting violent and burning things down because, what other power that we have, except for the ballot box, which you actually lost and just can't take it. You saw that violence. You were meant to see that violence. Berkley was a message about the price of dissent where leftists hold sway, and they seek to hold sway everywhere. The first step is to end the denial. Open your eyes, see what is happening. Don't allow yourself to be deluded by this false nostalgia for a past period of cultural peace that existed because at that time the left was winning. They hate you. I remember Bush derangement syndrome. I remember Code Pink and everybody freaking out over the war they suddenly went away when Obama came in. It was because they hated Bush and they hated Republicans and they hated everybody at the right. Except now everybody to the right of them is right. I mean, we got guys like Sargon who are for national health care, for some of the government-run economics. They hate him too because he doesn't bow down to them. They hate all of us. Look at Twitter, look at Facebook. Try and tell yourself that leftists are just nice people who disagree with you on a few policy details. Stop fooling yourself. This became real to me when I saw all those bloody YouTubers saying it's okay to hit somebody, to punch somebody, to attack somebody in the street because you disagree with them. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't really know it. But now they're done. Their sick ideology and false theology requires that we be enslaved or exterminated. We can't be tolerated, and we certainly can't be allowed to hold the reins of power. I honestly believe this. They want us gone. They don't care. They want us gone. There's only one outcome here, guys. One side wins and the other loses. There's no truce to be had, no possibility of a tie. The frightening thing is that the left is so foolish, so stuck in its bubble it has no understanding, that can only push so far before the people with all the guns and all the training push back. That's the problem with kids who are raised on participation trophies, who never got into a fist fight. They don't consider the possibility they will lose and lose hard. We have to ensure that they do. Understand your enemy. Understand that the left will exploit your principles and morals to make you disarm yourself, figuratively and literally. This is the weaponized empathy I'm talking about. Forced altruism. Don't play their game. Don't fall for their manufactured outrage. Don't concede their lies. Never take their side against the people defending your liberty. Most of all, accept the truth that if we let them win, and we will spend the rest of our lives on our back with a giant Birkenstock pressed in our collective face. They hate us, and however they come at us, we need to be prepared for a fight. I think that says it all. Well, this YouTube site has been fun to create. So, there's a Twitter for you there. Why don't you reach me at YodaCon? There's my email. You can reach me at rationalistyoda@gmail.com. If you find a video out there you'd like me to respond to or to take apart, be more than happy to take a look. And know that I'm equal opportunity. And if you like this video, please share it. And for God's sakes, there's a subscribe button. Subscribe to my channel. And if you could tell your friends, look, I'm begging, all right? Just deal with it. I'm just begging you. Just come on, grow the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.